Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is my opinion on the weapon viability for firefight during the open beta here. Right now, it's better to use the ×1 sights or the iron sights because you can kill people further away easier than with those than you can kill people up close with the ×2. There's some cool entry frags you can get with the ×2, ×7, but it's easier to just get those with the irons and kill other people with irons. In addition, grenades are not something I'd bother with right now until we have infinite ammo maps to practice them with. We don't know the stats on compensator and long barrel. I use compensator. I suspect it only lowers kick by 10%, but we don't know that yet. We also don't know the stats on movement speed. I wouldn't overvalue it right now because it's less than 1/8. I believe it only matters in entry frags, not in really these sort of aim duels. So really just load up on the heavy armor and the heavy weapons right now. This weapon shoots at 400 meters per second. It's an example of bullet drop and bullet delay. This is 1000 meters per second with an instant impact. We know bullet velocity affects impact speed, but we don't know if it affects damage fall off. The M24 and Mosin would be garbage even if they did damage, and they do not. Their only upsides are that they are sexy.
Alright, wait! Reloading!
When firing the SKS at a fire rate of other 2-shot kill weapons such as the AKM, it has roughly 3 times the hit. It has horrible sight picture and horrible irons. It's not a firefight weapon. The M16 is the second worst weapon in the game, having tons of kick and requiring all 3 bullets to hit the torso to kill at mid-range. It is not even remotely good enough to consider in firefight.
Wait! I'm loading!
The Uzi has terrible stats overall, with more kick than 308 and less damage. Its only upside is that it weighs very little, but since nobody knows how to entry frag in the game yet, this weapon is total garbage. Pistols fire slower, have less damage, less range, less velocity, less penetration, a smaller mag, and more kick than competition, making them the 4th worst weapons in the game. Shotguns are the least viable, usable weapon in the game. They can insta-kill somebody, but their horrible penetration and firing mechanics make them horrible competition. They are, however, fun, and that's pretty much it. In spite of their good stats, LMGs are bad at standing mid-range contact response, so they're not ever going to be meta in firefight. They're good on sites where there's no long-range duels, though. In spite of its ability to get entry frags and have good penetration, the Dragunov is bad at dueling at all ranges. It's not a viable weapon per se, but it's probably the worst one that you can get away with maining in firefight and still ladder. The G3 fires too slow and has too much kick to meet the competition that it has for firefight. It can still aim duel other weapons, but the low cost doesn't really result in great utility, and there are better options. The 74U has inferior stats to this 74 in the AKM. You likely move faster with it, but if you don't know where the entry frag spots are and where to rush, this weapon is really not worth picking up. It does, however, beat the other rush weapons like the Uzi, which are just total trash. The G36 has more bullet velocity than its MK18 competition. I feel like it kicks more, and I think that's definitely not worth the trade-off. I think the MK18 is worth more, but we don't know the stats for sure yet. Even though the MK18 should theoretically take 3 bullets over 2 bullets at a closer range than its G36 counterpart, the significant apparent reduction in recoil makes it very worth it, because you should still be able to aim duel people better with this weapon than the G36. The M14 EBR takes too much kick while in the standing to be a viable main weapon in firefight. However, its high penetration and super high damage per second make it viable for cheese plays to compete with the MP7.
Reloading! Reload!
In spite of its pretty obvious bad kick handling and 9mm round, the MP7 has good movement speed and is actually really easy to maintain the sight picture in spite of the kick. So this is one of the only weapons that can't long-range aim duel in firefight that you can viably main, and I expect to see this one a lot.
My ammo is low!
The AKM is the best weapon in the game, with a good range on a 2-body shot kill profile and nearly no kick. There's really nothing that can reliably compete. The only problem is its low fire rate, which will lose you a kill here and now, but it's still ridiculously good at killing people at long ranges, so it's probably just the best weapon overall. The AK-74 shoots slightly faster than the AKM with a little bit more kick. Its damage profile starts at 3 body torso shots earlier, but it stays at 3 torso shots longer than the AKM. So between the two, it's really up to preference. I like the AKM a lot more. I think it's a better weapon, but the argument can definitely be made for the AK-74. If you can keep your shot group within body shot range and get headshots, then it would technically be a better weapon. The L85A1 shoots slower than the Mark 18 with more bullet velocity and yields pretty much the same kick. Technically it shouldn't be a meta weapon, but it's kind of fun. I don't think it's as good as the Mark 18. Definitely doesn't have as good as stats, but you can kill with this. It can definitely aim duel a lot of the worst weapons in the game, so it's not the worst weapon, but it really doesn't stand out in any way. The Scar H's horrible kick, pretty bad fire rate and bad magazine make it really lacking in aim dueling. Its upside is that its penetration, velocity, and 2 body shot kill profile on heavy armor are retained for longer range than the AKM, and it can technically kill faster than the Mark 18. So if you find a way to creatively overcome those issues, this is a possible main weapon, but until then, or if you don't know how, then it's definitely lacking overall. The FAL has very good damage for its mediocre kick. The only problem with it is its 20 round mag, and it's pretty poor handling. As you can see here, it's pretty hard to see what you're actually shooting at once you get the volley going. If you can kind of train around that and deal with it, then this is definitely a main weapon. But there are a lot of kills you could have gotten with the AKM that you won't with this, because the AKM handles a lot better, even though it does less damage. And for some random tips, make sure your FOV is at 100. Utilize bait whenever you can, and try to ambush. Rush objectives to see where the enemy can get as fast as they can. Repeat strategies many times to see how your enemy will counter it, and hook up with competitive players whenever you find them. That's all for now. Until later, or there's a patch, I'm some random guy.